Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be talking with author, person who crafts in the world of horror, science fiction, and that is author Daniel Braum. Daniel, thank you for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here, Jason.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. I'll mention a couple of titles, and you're welcome to drop in any additional titles as well. Phantom Constellations being one of those. Creatures of Liminal Space. Oh, look at that! Look at that!
Oh,
Look
it's
at
in
that!
it's in the blur. It doesn't come out of its cloak.
That's right. Yes. Um, and the Serpent Shadow being another one as well.
Yeah. And yeah, those are three recent titles. I write mostly short stories, so Phantom Constellations was actually my fifth short story collection. Some of the other ones were The Wish Mechanics, Stories of the Strange and Fantastic, and I also had
Mhm.
one from Lev Press called Underworld Dreams. Thanks so much for mentioning them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love a good novel or novella, but I also love what authors do in the short story space as well. I appreciate fiction in all its lengths and most of its forms, most of its forms.
Yeah, I don't want to give a bad rap to a musical, but yeah, that's one that I'm not. Uh, that's the hardest sell for me, the breaking into the song and dance. But I know it's an art form. I know it's an
Yes,
art
yes,
form.
true. That not a bad episode of Star Trek, Strange New Worlds. That's my favorite so far in the world of
Oh, I
musicals.
heard I heard there's a musical episode. I've been meaning to check that one out. So yeah,
Yeah.
see, I stand corrected and shouldn't have talked in absolutes.
Well, this is only one example. This is only one example, and I feel like part of what makes it work is that it's kind of tongue in cheek about it. But um, I'll be curious to hear what you think. Uh, I usually ask about origins, and so I'm curious about what connected you with writing. At what point did you say, or did you know that you wanted to be a writer?
I think when I was thinking about this question, was thinking about to when I was really immersed in being a reader, and that was as a young teenager or a pre-teenager, and the works of authors Lucius Shepard and Tanith Lee that were really. I didn't know I wanted to be a writer back then, but those were two writers that were hugely influential to me, both in what they brought to me as as a reader without even knowing it, like how they I was hugely influenced by Lucia Shepard. It was a sense of place and it was a sense of being somewhere that I'd never been. And with Tanith Lee, it was the sense of possibility and the sense that genre anything could happen. So when I did first start to craft stories, just without even knowing anything or not even being educated or trained, I just knew that that's what I liked to read. So that's what I liked to write. As far as writing, I've been publishing for about 20 years. So a little before that was when I just started taking classes or going to conventions and workshops and seeing what was involved in actually writing this stuff.
Oh. Yeah, going from reading to appreciating the craft and then crafting in the craft.
That was my journey. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways in, but that was the line I seemed to take.
Yeah, yeah. Now, for a long time, I've been a science fiction fan, and it's been my go-to genre. In the past few years, I've really gotten tapped into horror more than
Hmm.
I used to be as well. Uh, what do those genres allow you to do in creating?
So I will maybe hope this isn't too much information, or I'm not sure I always talk about this, but when I first started writing, at least I thought I was, or at least I wanted to, write science fiction. At least I thought that
Mhm.
my ideas um, were science fiction ideas. Um, I had published some science fiction publications, but it wasn't until I was started being accepted into cemetery dance that I realized, wow, okay, like horror is such an expansive genre, and they've obviously found a place for me in there. So I think what's great about horror, as I've been more and more educated over the years, is I love how horror is the genre that plays nice with all genres. And
Hmm.
horror can be it can be a lot of things. I think it is not a competition, but it is possibly the most expansive or the most wide-ranging umbrella of genres. So that leads to it leads to just the opportunities of like, yeah, like for us science fiction fans, horror can be an element in a science fiction story. It can be an emotion, it can be a mode. Um, and I think the same can be true for it being an element present in all the genres or even in non-genre work. And that is just hugely I think it's hugely freeing as an author. Like I think it allows so many opportunities. Most importantly, I think it allows authors to tell their own stories free of constraints, whereas other genres, um, and this is just conjecture, it could be the possibility of like, wow, that's a great story, but that's not science fiction. You know,
Hmm.
I think a lot less of that going on with horror because there's such a wide range of it and um, a really wide range.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. And you mentioned Cemetery Dance. I really enjoy what they do. Richard Chismar and the work that's being published there. Great space to share creatively.
Yeah, I'd love to send it. Thanks for echoing that shout out. I'd love to send a shout out to Cemetery Dance and Richard Chismar. That's how I learned about horror. Just that Cemetery Dance and Richard Chismar accepted me. I was like, wow, this weird story is actually it's actually horror. Okay, it fits here. And so I just wanted to learn about it. I started reading Cemetery Dance magazine and just learning like, wow, how these stories are all they're all different, but there's something unifying about them. And perhaps that unifying thread is perhaps an element of darkness, but I'm also not still not sure. An eternal beginner here.
Speaking of that, as someone who's moved from reader to writer, and as someone who's been working across genres, how has your process changed, or what parts of the creative process do you embrace?
Um, my creative process, I'll tell you the part that hasn't changed, and maybe the part that's changed. The part that hasn't changed is I'm inspired by the element of setting. So for me, the first thing that comes out of the blue, the first thing that comes out of the air will be like, oh, setting. There's a place. There's a place that I'd been to, whether it's like around the corner or someplace that I traveled to, or that's where the idea comes. I'll be like, oh, I want to write about that place, and that's the part that you don't really teach, and that's just the inspiration. So my process is always once I'm inspired by the setting, then sort of doing the craft elements and working up the character, the conflict, the dramatic structure, and working it that way. Um, the part that's changed is over the years as I've learned more and more about horror, more and more about different genres and subgenres and tropes and authors and what they mean. I've learned where I fit into that. You know, which authors came before me, what those authors are doing, what are elements and expectations. And while I don't usually keep those in the front of my mind when I'm inspired or when I'm starting to work, that having that knowledge now is something that can come into my creative process to be like, okay, we're working on the story. All right, if we push this element this way, it might be more of this, and it might fall more into this box or more into this lineage. Oh, but if we push it more this way, um, it would be more in these expectations and this kind of a horror. So just having that that knowledge and education has influenced me to just have more, excuse me, more tools at my disposal if I need them.
Nice, nice. I also know from reading your work, there's an influence of history. The science fiction influence is there. So anything that you'd like to say about how that kind of works together for you?
Yeah, both really inspire me. I love both science fiction and and I love and I love history. So I think it's great to be able to not necessarily shy away from something that might be a science fictional element, even though mine my stuff is not really the laser beams and the rocket ships, which love all that kind of stuff. But my science fictional elements might take might take the appearance of more like a secondary worlds or other dimensions or sort of stuff where that's just still sort of the nebulous. But yeah, I guess that's science fiction. And horror is like, we'll take you, we'll take you.
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
with us. And I think the history comes into play as an offshoot of setting because every place has a history. And when I'm working up the conflicts that are inherent in settings, you mentioned the Serpent Shadow. That's a great example.
Hmm.
That takes place in the Yucatan Peninsula in the 1980s, in Mexico. And yeah, there's different elements of history, different wars, different peoples, and that plays a part in the magic and the supernatural of the place and what the characters encounter there. So I think it's just a natural for me, it's a natural process that, yeah, that history is just going to come into play.
Nice, nice. Uh, Anything that we've missed before I ask about what is next for you? Any additional creative shout outs that you'd like to mention or anything like that?
Um, wow, no, just thanks for mentioning the books. Yeah, the one
Hmm.
before Phantom Constellations that you mentioned, it was Creatures of Liminal Space. That was out by a small but wonderful outfit called Jackanapes Press, and I always like to mention uh, the runner of that is Dan Sauer, who not only is the publisher, he's a wonderful illustrator and did all the illustrations for it.
Great title, too. Great title.
Ah, thank you.
Hmm. What is next for you? What are you exploring now in your work?
Well, like right now, what's next for me is I have it on my mind really sharing Phantom Constellation. So I'm just doing a lot of booking of horror and book events. So I'm really excited I like meeting readers and meeting other writers. But in terms of when I get back to the drawing boards and writing, it's for me, I'm always excited about the ghost story and the modern ghost story and I'm sure ghosts won't be very far away from my next work in process.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Where can people find out more about you online? Any particular conventions that you'd like to mention?
Oh yeah, the next convention I think I'll be at is I think the end of February will be the Scares That Cares convention down in Williamsburg. I'll be there. You can find me in the usual places: Amazon, Cemetery Dance, and jackanapespress.com. Those are You can check out my publishers there. And my website is a WordPress website. It's called Blood and Stardust. I think it's bloodandstardust.wordpress.com. I think it is. So, and I'm on the usual places in social media.
And there, even in the title of the website, we have horror, we have science fiction, and the marriage of the two. I love it.
Yeah, you noticed it. Thanks for checking. Thanks for catching that. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, Daniel, many thanks for the conversation. Many thanks for talking through your work and sharing it with me. And certainly glad to have you back anytime as you're working on the next exploration of ghosts and ghost stories and any other work that you're venturing into.
That would be wonderful. It was great being here and look forward to chatting with you again soon, Jason. Thanks so much.